I just had a couple returns on eBay, and I just found out last night that there's maybe a different way to handle certain returns. So I'm going to talk to you about that on the other side. So without any further ado,
let's go.
Let's go. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is John from Flippin' Ain't Easy. And let me start by saying, sorry about the voice. Still dealing with trying to get it back, but it's getting a little bit better day by day, but it's just a slow progression, and it's very frustrating because I want to bring you these videos. I want to do so in such a way where you can understand me. So hopefully I'm coming across very clear to you. But this video is about returns on eBay specifically. And yesterday during the live stream, we had some packages out for the carrier to pick up while we were on the live stream, and they picked them up, but they also dropped off 3 boxes. And at first I was like, wait, what are these boxes? And it turns out that they were eBay returns. Of the returns that we got, the first one was a Brookstone foot massager. And I had listed in the listing that that item had some issues. And I even did a video to show that it made some different noises, but from my basic limited testing of the unit, that it seemed to work just fine. So this person bought it. I think they paid like 30-40 bucks plus shipping, and they got it, and they sent me a message saying that, hey, sounds like the gears are stripping. I'm like, how? They didn't even know because they didn't go into the unit. But nonetheless, they opened a return. So I accepted the return. I had to pay for the return label. That return came back. I tested the unit out, and yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird. It wasn't the kind of massage that you'd want on your foot. So I'm going to end up selling that for parts or repair. The other two, and they got a full refund on that. That wasn't part of the problem that led me to make this video. The other 2 returns that I received, one is a Black & Decker 40-volt lithium-ion cordless sweeper, air blower. You know, you got leaves or whatever, right? Now, when we first got this and we picked this up, it's a liquidation return. We actually plugged it in, powered up the battery, fired up the unit, and actually used it in our backyard just to test it out, to the point where Jenna wanted to keep it. And I said, no, we're not keeping everything we buy to resell. We have to make money, and we're going to sell this item. So we put it up for sale. I think we sold it for like 40 bucks plus shipping. And got an email from the buyer saying that they turned this thing on, or they tried to plug the battery in, and they ended up with a red light, which on these batteries, if it's green, it means it's charging. Full green light it means it's fully charged. Red light means it can't take the charge. There's a problem with the battery. So they sent me a photo, and the first thing that came to my mind was, uh-oh, this could be a swap out. I know this thing works. We tried it, we used it, we charged it. And I said, go ahead and send it back. I said, you know, I gave them the line where we have a way of knowing what our item is anyway, so I'm happy to take the return. So the return comes in, and we open it up, and I plug in the charger and the battery, and it's a flashing green light. And there's an indicator on the battery where you can push it to show the actual charge status of the battery. And it's like 3 out of 4 bars, so it's almost full. I tried a different outlet, same result. I don't know if this person tried to use maybe a different outlet, maybe an outlet that wasn't powerful enough. I don't know. Or maybe there was a game going on, and maybe they decided that they're just going to send back the whole thing because I was on to what they were saying. Or what the rep I spoke to last night told me, that sometimes these buyers, they try to buy your item, they try to resell it, they realize they can't make any money off of it, so they want to send it back. She said that that's happened before. But in my position, this is a perfectly working item. The same item that I advertise is a perfectly working item. And as a buyer has a responsibility to make sure that when they open a return, it's a factual return, okay? So they open as a item not as described, so I had to pay for the return label. So that didn't sit well with me. So I put that aside after testing it, okay? I wanted to work on this last return. It's a water filtration system. And these things go for like 300 bucks brand new. I sold this open box customer return unit for, I think it was $139 plus shipping. Really nice unit. I remember testing it out. And essentially what you do is you put the water in the water tank, and there's a couple filters that are built in the system that will basically turn it into distilled water. There's a UV system built in, and it's a really nice little unit. So we tested it out when we first got it. Everything was fine. So the buyer gets it, and they say, there's a couple problems with this unit. I've noticed that there's a pooling of water, like there's a water leak somewhere. And in addition to that, there's some like black specks in my water, and it looks like mold, and I don't want to take a chance and drink this water. So they open a return. Of course, I accept the return. I'm like, I don't remember this at all. This is not right. So I take the return. So when I test this out, I spend about 45 minutes. Fill the whole tank with water, run it through, and it's perfect. Perfect. I run all the different cycles, the flush cycle, the different size drink cycle, and perfect water, perfectly tasting water. In fact, after about an hour, I removed the unit, not a drop of water underneath the unit. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe this person is just a shaky hand and they can't, who knows? Maybe they caused a little leak or a little spill and they didn't notice it. They attribute it to the actual unit being faulty. But here we have two units where I've probably spent, eBay defaults on the return label to USPS mail. So they're charging me more than what I paid for the actual shipping originally through UPS. I know for a fact that they are. But they don't show you anywhere where they charge you what they're charging you for that return label. So I call eBay. I get someone in the United States, someone with some experience, someone that's been with the eBay since 2015 and has worked in many specialty departments. Thankfully, I got a good rep. And she had a conversation with me about these things. A lot of times they're trying to get you off the phone. She was like actually having a pretty good conversation, to the point where I wish I actually would have recorded the call, because it would have been a very informative phone call. But of course I didn't. But I said, look, what do I do in these cases? I got two of these returns where, look, I know I can use the refund tool. I know I can retain the original shipping because there's nothing wrong with these units. They're not getting the original shipping back. But from what I understand, you guys give a $6 credit for the return label, which is a joke because it's going to cost me a lot for both of these. And what is that my only option, or is that even still a thing? And she said, well, that $6 return credit is really for something else. She wouldn't really go into it, but she said what I would recommend is to deduct the cost of the shipping from the refund using the refund tool. And before I thought that was something you weren't supposed to do. And I know other people were doing it, like Crazy New York Driver was a big proponent of that. But I didn't want to do that. But she said, I'm going to check on this. So she checked on it and she said, yeah, I cannot find how much the cost of the return labels are for some reason. You might be able to go in tomorrow, the next day, and see after these have registered as being delivered as to what you're being charged for the return label. Or you can just charge whatever the rate was that they were originally charged and deduct that from the refund. So I went in. Of course, you got to have supporting documentation, like a photo. So I took a photo of the battery status being, 3 green lights out of 4, and the actual blinking light once it's plugged into the charger. I explained that buyer claimed it was not functional. However, I received it and it was functional. There was no reason for the return, no reason why I had to pay for the return label out of pocket. I did the same thing for the filtration. I took a photo of it in a working condition, and I stated that there's no leakage of the system. The filters were perfectly installed. There's no problem with the unit, and the unit did not have specks in the water. Now I can only think maybe that the when you have a newer filter, because this is a new system, that sometimes you have to adequately flush the filters out before and get some of that soot out of there before you use it, and it could have been something like that. But to make an assumption that it was mold and to say that, you know, there's a leak in the system without really fully knowing, they sent the system back. Really, they didn't do a good job packing it. There's water in the unit, so they didn't do a good job flushing it out before they sent it back. But nonetheless, the unit works perfectly. And you know what, guys, you and I as sellers shouldn't have to be on the hook for the payment of these high return labels, and yet a buyer can just say whatever they want and you're on the hook for it. And in this particular case, the rep told me to go into the refund tool and deduct, not only not give them back the original refund, well, the original price of the shipping they paid, but to also take that amount and deduct that from the buyer's refund. I think one case it was like $15, and the other case it was like $40-something, and that's based on a UPS rate. I could just imagine what the actual rate I am being charged, so I'm not getting my money back entirely on these labels. But it's better than a $6 credit. It's sometimes you know when you're dealing with eBay, sometimes you know you just cannot take what they're saying to be gospel. But I can tell you that there's many times I deal with a rep and I have a real firm understanding that they know what they're talking about. And this rep provided me a lot of information and was very adamant that this is a way to do it. And she's made it clear, make sure that you're the one processing the refund before the buyer opens a claim. So they file a claim against you and you haven't yet processed the refund, and it's going to potentially be a ding against your account, a defect, which you want to avoid because it hurts your seller status. So she said that there's not going to be a defect in this case. So the buyer wants to dispute the refund, they can just call in at that time, open a claim. That doesn't hurt your account because you've acted upon the return as you were supposed to as a seller. But this idea, because I've only had it happen once where I've received in the last 2.5 years a $6 return label credit, okay? In the last year, it's been like nobody knows what I'm talking about when I call for this credit, okay? And based on what I was told, based on what I did, this is how I'm going to handle returns from now on. If it's a faulty INAD where I am on the hook for the return label, they're not getting that money back on their refund. I'm actually deducting that. Of course, they're not getting their original shipping back. And I can tell you that I'm going to do things a little different. I'm going to use pirate ship. I'm going to have to go in next time, create a label to where the buyer is the return address and then I am the to address, and buy the label outright based on the dimensions in the item and the weight and the dimensions. And then I'm going to have to send the buyer the label that way because it's going to be a lot less expensive. A $40 UPS label is going to be like every bit of 60 to 70 bucks on eBay, on USPS eBay labels. And it's a shame that eBay doesn't give you, the seller, a chance to know how much am I paying for this return label anyway. I think they give you that information when you're first buying it and approving the label, but that's not retained anywhere for some reason. Of course, if you guys know where that is, please put your comments down below. But we looked everywhere and we could not find in any details of the transaction or anything where to find that information. While I had her on the phone, I did ask her about the update, the spring seller update, which promised us payment for these best offer items that we're giving these people a 4-day layaway program. And she says it's coming along slowly but surely. They're doing the buyers in waves, so you can opt in or opt out as a seller in your settings. However, the buyers are not going to be able to have that. They're not going to be able to have that ability to opt out eventually. Right now, I'd say at least more than half the people that buy your items aren't paying right away. And we'll see. I'm I'm cautiously optimistic that this is going to happen at all, even though they've said it's going to happen, because it's like, come on, guys, it's not that difficult. It's basic technology. Your competitors are already charging people right away, whether they make a best offer or they're buying the item at full price. Mercari, Poshmark, it's already being done. It has been done. It's not new technology. So I don't know why they're dragging their butt. I really don't know why. But hopefully eBay can get their stuff together. So what do you guys think? How are you going to handle a return that is not at your fault? It's a faulty return, false INAD, where it shouldn't have been returned in the first place, and they've given you a poor excuse for returning the item, and you get it and there's nothing wrong with it. How do you currently handle that? Now, I know there's a section of you that's going to say, look, I'm not going to waste my time. It's a cost of doing business. It's a deduction against what you've made at the end of the year, as just the same as some type of eBay fee. I get it, but also, to me, it's, if I can learn to pass this information on to you, I'm going to make the phone call. I'm going to find out, is this the right way to do it? And if there's an alternative way that's going to save me money, and when you save money in this business, you're making money, then that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pass it on to you guys. So do me a favor. If you enjoyed the content of this video and the time we take, hit the like button. That's certainly appreciated. Of course, I think only like 70% of the people that watch this video are not even subscribed to the channel. So if you enjoy this content, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when we go live, like we do on Mondays and Fridays, or when I make a video like this, hit that notification bell so you can be notified when that happens. So guys, faulty returns are going to happen, and every seller should know what your options are when that happens. And hopefully this video gives you some ideas and just another weapon in your arsenal when it comes to handling a faulty return. But faulty returns, false INADs, are just yet another example of how flipping ain't easy. And I want you guys to have an excellent rest of your day, and we will talk to you very soon.